we want to talk a little bit more about game changes, and I think it's kind of a great time to talk about one of probably the most exciting unsigned team in game changes, right? Especially
Mhm.
heading into playoffs. It's not the first time we've seen Dart Monkeys make a real run and really challenge a lot of these sort of I guess more known names in terms of roster and brand, but they've done it
Mhm.
yet again, making it into the playoffs after a very close game against TSMX. And to help us, to tell us how all that went and talk us through the team, we got the IGL from Dart Monkeys, Autumn, joining us here on the show for the first time. Autumn, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, I mean, of course, I think the game changes is really heating up right now. I know you guys are also having a great time, sort of dethroning a lot of these teams and and sending them out of the lower bracket as you have done. I kind of want to we'll talk about the current game changes in a sec, but I kind of want to talk about your background a little bit because I think the first tweet on your account is you acing RMU esports. So was that about the start of your competitive Valorant career? Tell us a little bit about how this all came to be.
Yeah, that's from when I was silver. That's the start of my Valorant competitive career, if you can call it competitive. I was just like, we joined I had four friends and we just joined a scrim server and we are messing around. We were all like gold silver. We didn't really know what we were doing. But yeah, that was like the first ever competitive, quote unquote competitive scrim I was ever a part of. So
That's awesome. Even now that you came to get together in a bout now with Dart Monkeys, I actually even wanted to know, like, how does this team come about? Why the name Dart Monkeys, and where does the team come from? How'd you guys
okay.
get together?
Balloons.
So I knew Marissa Grimoire, our
Yep.
controller player, from playing with her on Nerd Emoji, which was like a team that existed in GC like last year in GC Series 3, like
Mm.
October, and then they disbanded really quickly. But she was a good friend of mine. Um I met Isla, our chamber player, through some of my friends on Lycus Empire,
Yep.
I think.
Mhm.
And then Um, I played on Whiteout right before Dart Monkeys, and unofficially SK was gonna be our fifth. Like, she was gonna replace Sarah, who
Mm.
now plays for Immortals,
Mhm.
and then um Jude we met through our manager at the time of Dart Monkeys because we were looking for a fifth. Our manager, she recommended them to us, so
Mm.
that's how we all came to be. And then SK knew Curry Shot, our current coach from Overwatch,
Your
and
Overwatch season, yeah.
then,
Yeah.
uh, what else? Our name came from just, like, the Dart Monkey from Bloons Tower Defense because 'cause we're all Bloons
Of course.
players, and, SK had that. SK, full credit to her.
That's awesome.
Amazing name, we all love
That's
it.
Yeah.
awesome.
It's pretty good. I do want to ask you. We got to mention it a little bit before, but you guys have been signing up to a bunch of tournaments, which I think is a really cool thing. Besides Game Changers, you were also doing Game Changers Academy. You were doing the Astro Clash, a bunch of tournaments that you can sign up to. So, what is the objective going through each one of those tournaments? We know that a team like Cloud9, they're always praising teams that actually want to go and get the tournament experience. Is that kind of the path that you're following as well?
Yeah. Everyone just wants to be the best players that we can be and the best team that we can be. And we figure the more experience we get, the less nerves we get, the more comfy we get playing, and just also more reps um help us learn more.
Mhm.
Mhm.
There's a ton to learn and grow from every single event, and every single event we're improving. So
Now, you sort of gave an interview for Run It Back where you sort of spoke about the impact of the Galorants community. I think there are probably a bunch of people maybe not too familiar with it, but you sort of credited that influence as a part of sort of what helped you advance as a player in your career. So I'm curious to hear you sort of speak more to that because I know it's been a community that's been around for a little while, but tell us a little bit about your time there and how that sort of had you propelled forward in your career.
yeah, it's a super amazing community. Everyone there is really kind and like patient and willing to teach you things.
Mhm.
So I didn't know anything about the competitive scene. Like my background is as a TCG player, like
Hmm.
so it it was just really nice to have a community where I could learn and grow without like the judgment or harassment
Hmm.
of just like I don't know. Men can be pretty mean and ranked, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sure.
just like a place where you can feel safe to learn. They have amazing learning programs there for people who are in lower elos to like get their feet off the ground and just like familiarize themselves with competitive format,
Hmm.
which I think has a lot of value to it. So that way, when they like acquire the skills, they know how to conduct themselves as more so professionals, and they like as well have a little bit of playing experience.
Yeah. No, definitely. I got to give Valorant a big shout out to how they developed the scene to even help out for Game Changers. Because if I remember correctly, too, like I even had like some moments where I was able to hop in into like the Valorant's Discord to like even do like conversations with aspiring observers and casters. So it's not just only on with players that want to learn the game. So it's a lot about like a really good uplifting community within
Yeah.
the Valorant scene itself. So big shout out to them to be able to do that for us. And to continue what you were saying here, Autumn, because you were mentioning how it was like an inclusive space and whatnot. Was that the main thing that brought you within, that gave you the interest to compete into Valorant before actually just discovering Valorant, or what drew you to want to play Valorant?
Okay, do you know, like, Offline TV? I
Yes, I
watched
do.
Lily Pichu play Valorant, and I had never played an FPS before, and I'm like, "They look like they're having fun, I wanna do that," and I
Yeah.
started, and I was, like, iron, and I sucked at the game, and then, like, I did it for fun for a little bit, and then
Yeah.
I watched the, like, For the Women's Summer Showdown where, like,
Hmm.
Magical,
Yes.
now C9 White played, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"That is awesome, I wanna do that." So then I just have been grinding since then.
So yeah, I actually had the privilege as well to cast two of the offline TV charity tournaments with DDK, when you got to cast the Pokies and the Saikuno, the Michael Reeves, and this guy's Toast. It's actually a very very wholesome group, and also when you're speaking about the inclusivity, inclusive. I can't even speak it, but how everybody gets together within the community in Galorants. Offline TV within their community does the same thing, and it's very uplifting as well. So that's really cool to see.
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
it's a big jump actually. I mean, as an avid TCG player myself, I can confirm that it's nothing like playing FPS competitively. First of all, you're
Yeah.
playing on your own. So much about it is very different. And then you're moving to sort of a team context is vastly different. Tell us a bit about how that came about for you, or how it felt. What was the hardest thing about transitioning from being like a TCG player to like now, a FPS attack shooter player?
Well, there are a lot of hard things. Teamwork, obviously, among the highest.
Mm.
Mechanics is up there.
Mm,
Uh, but a lot of the things carry over because I don't know. A lot of it's just a mindset for improving more so than like the actual skills that you have.
yeah.
It's just like willing to do anything to get better at something. But so that's helped me a lot. Like I was really good at Pokemon TCG.
Hmm.
So um just carrying over that mental, but mechanics were really hard for me. I had to grind a ton of aim trainers, and I still do. It's one of
Hmm.
the things I struggle with a lot. Teamwork, communication, things that just aren't built on at all.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
but as far as like reviewing your play and like learning strategy, a lot of that is familiar to me. So more
Mm.
translates than you would probably think.
Okay. The student's
Hmm.
mentality, I think, definitely is probably one of the most important ones, especially when you're trying to, adopt a new skill and also bring in those mechanics, because you're not. It's not like you've transitioned from a different FPS game. You've gone straight into one of the most mechanically intensive shooter games that exists. So it's a huge jump.
Yeah.
Eh,
And
sorry, go ahead,
also
Dan.
just yeah, asking a little bit more about the way that the team is working together, because you guys have been now together for a bit, and now what do you think has been the evolution from the first Game Changers to now? Because you do look stronger. I mean, going and looking at that match against TSM, you guys look pretty solid. So what do you think is kind of the biggest improvement that you had since before, including, like you mentioned, all the tournaments that you've been part of, all the learning process that you mentioned you guys been going through as well?
Um, our practices have gotten a lot more efficient. What else? We learned how to like learn as a team together, if that makes sense. At the start, it can be hard because you don't know like what works and what doesn't, and you're trying to
Mhm.
figure things out like together. And also like not everyone's entirely like comfortable with everyone yet. I think the biggest thing that's changed is like environment. We're all really comfortable around each other. We all know that like if we're critiquing each other, it's not an attack on each other's persons. Like my teammates are all amazing, and um, all of us are just willing to do anything to be the best versions of ourselves. And so yeah, culture shifts.
Mhm.
Um, and more effective practice is
Mhm.
probably the two biggest things that have changed since that first Game Changer series.
How did you end up becoming an IGL, right? Because it's such a unique role in FPS, right? And it requires a significant amount of mental bandwidth, excuse me. How'd that come about? Was it just like you fell into it? Was it a conscious decision? How much of, your skill set already do you feel translates into that role? Because we talk about it all the time. It's like one of the hardest things to do. And also one of the roles that people, especially in North America, in the NA region, are less sort of likely to step into because of the responsibility that comes along with
When I started playing, I didn't wanna do it, but, like, the first team I was on was, like, a plat team, and they, like, Autumn IGL, and I'm like, "Okay."
it.
And then just, like, kept doing it. I found a passion for it. I really enjoy IGLing.
Mhm.
I was a huge Mel fan, and I still am. I'm a massive Mel fan, but, yeah, no,
That's awesome.
um she was kinda my inspiration for that, and I also had a little bit of encouragement from teammates to do it.
Sure.
Yeah. That Mel is definitely a person to look up to for sure within the scene of Game Changers itself. Either you're from NA, Europe, or anybody else. I think, no pun intended, but the magical run has been something that's been inspiring a lot of the competitors in Game Changers today. And now I love how the scene's developing into like, is it going to be C9 White, or is it going to be G2 goes in, or is it going to be Team Liquid out in Brazil, right? So I love that they were able to set that threshold and to continue to grow the competition. And when we talk about trying to grow the competition, and you as well having to learn a lot and watch a lot of VODs here, Autumn, to be able to come out with these IGL ideas. I'm just looking through your comps, and I noticed that you could pull some inspiration left and right. And I see, for example, like the Ghost comp on Haven. I see some Fade being introduced going into the latest agent being added into the game. So do you actually get inspiration from specific like certain specific teams within the VCT stage, or different regions? Who do you actually look up to usually in terms of getting those strats in?
Um, sometimes it's from specific teams, sometimes it's our own ideas.
Mm,
As a team, we all watch VODs. Our coach has pretty good like analyses of like what we'd be good on as well. So like we all present ideas, we try it out in scrimmages, see
hmm
what's, like, the most comfortable with us, what we think has the highest skill ceiling, like, composition-wise, and, like, what probably has longevity
hmm
and, like, isn't, like, gimmicky.
Mm.
So, we work with those things in mind, and we just, practice it together. We'll move things around if stuff isn't working or, we're not really comfortable on it,
Yeah,
but,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, we do take some inspiration, from pro teams.
Actually, you mentioned that there are some things that comes out from yourself, your coach, and the team. Just in general, then what's your take on their current meta? What are like the strengths that currently exist within the meta, and maybe some of even of the weaknesses. I know that we could probably go on for hours, but like, what's the biggest thing, the biggest thing that you see?
Um, Fade, Raise, Breach is pretty strong right now. Like on a lot of maps,
Mm,
just the util synergy is really strong, right? Like you can um zone areas really well. You can trap people into areas and get like util kills with the Raise nade.
mhm.
As far as like opinions on the meta, I think it's a good meta. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's like any other meta.
Yeah,
It's just meta.
I like nerding on that stuff, just like you, because as you mentioned, those three agents being like a Silver Breach and a Fade, then there's a lot of like these trap plays and synergy based off abilities, right? And not just like back in when the game first came out and it's double duelist and just run it down when the only thing that could stop you are cipher trips or whatnot until Astra started coming out. And I think we started seeing a little bit more of that nerdiness come out within the game, and that's the kind of shit that I like to see.
Yeah.
And just to kind of understand the background of the team better, I know you said a lot of you knew each other from before, or that is kind of the how the team was formed. But what happens besides practice? Because I pretty much only want to ask if you guys play balloons on your free time. But it's more like how, because your team, they look so fun. The logo itself, everything about this entire team looks really great. So how is kind of that connection outside of the game for you?
Yeah, my teammates are my closest friends in the whole world, and there's like no
Awesome.
question about any of that. We play balloons together, we play ranked together, we hang out
Yes.
outside of practice. Um, yeah, no, they're like they're amazing. I love all of them.
So
Now Terps is like, no, we all hate each other totally.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. We all hate each other. We we would be doing this for 5 months consecutively without paychecks if we hated each other, probably.
That's awesome.
tell us a little bit about this. You're running the latest game changes, right? I think you run into TSMX in that sort of upper bracket game, and you destroy them on Fracture. Absolutely, absolutely dominate. The next couple of maps are really close. Bit of a heartbreaker to sort of go down the lower bracket. So tell us a little bit about. Can you give us like a rough timeline about how that series sort of went for your team? Because I think everyone was expecting, okay, they might wrap this one up in two, but didn't quite go that way.
Well, we had eliminated them from Astro in the week prior. We were feeling
Mm,
really confident, especially after the fracture map. We were feeling a bit confident. We made some silly, goofy mistakes in
Mm.
the latter two maps, and we have an opportunity to redeem ourselves in the next. I don't want to go too much into like what we did wrong, obviously, but we did some silly, goofy slip ups,
Sure.
and I can promise it won't happen again. We learned, we grew, and like we'll come back stronger.
for
You
sure.
prefer to match up against them again, or was there another team in that top eight that you have your eyes on as well?
We were all happy to see the rematch.
Yeah, sure.
That's awesome. Actually, even based on that, because now, we just brushed upon the games versus TSM. We also mentioned maybe the rematch from like Sakura Cup and the Game Changers Academy. I want to know like your takes on the current format of or the different formats actually that you were able to play against, right? Because you have the GSL format for the Sakura Cup. Now you have the Swiss format going into playoffs for Game Changers. Is the current format that we have for Game Changers Series 2 competitive enough? Is it good? Is it a good format?
This is a lot of best of ones, right? You guys are best of one up until
Yeah.
the upper
It's
quarters.
it would be good if after Swiss everything was BO3, like if the
Mm,
whole tourney was BO3 and the seeding was more accurate. It's hard for GC. There are like 3 events in a year that teams play in, so you can't really gauge. So you're
Mm.
going based on like prior GC results. But as you can see, like I don't want to like call anyone out, but some teams were seeded a bit higher than they probably deserved, and that
Uh-huh.
messed up some of the brackets. Some of the
mhm,
teams had a
mhm.
lot easier runs than other teams, like to qual. So I don't necessarily think that top eight is indicative of the top eight game changer teams currently in this event.
Yep.
But I think the format would be fine. I think everything should be a BO3, but I also understand like there's time frames for these tourneys, and sometimes it doesn't make sense. And the uppers games aren't even a limb game, so it's kind of I understand the rationale as to why they would be a BO1 as well.
Well, speaking of BO1s, even the Swiss stage has a BO1 as an opener, and everything else being BO3s, right? So was that a little bit? Did that throw off like the community off guard in terms of like how the match was being played, or was that pretty much standard now?
For us, it didn't. The first two teams didn't really give us much trouble, but
Okay.
I could see how it could if you had like a tough opponent in like your 1-0 round after winning the first game.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
because there's 48 teams, like the teams that are expected to win should win if
Okay.
they're like doing their job and prepping properly.
Should be very
Yeah.
familiar to you as a TCG player anyway. This
Yeah,
Swiss format,
the
right?
I like the Swiss format, so
In TCGs, what happens is sometimes if you go 0-1, you end up in a pool of people playing like off meta decks and stuff like that, and it gets really
it's
funky.
scary. It's
Yeah,
scary.
it's called the losers meta.
Autumn,
You
you
don't want to
just
get there.
you just got Mitch sorry about fucking Magic the Gathering and what is it? Bloodborne,
I'm
Blood
a
and Sweat
Flesh
and
and Blood
Tears?
player.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I played Pokemon TCG for a while as well during the Pikachu Zekrom era, so it wasn't that long ago.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah, every deck was like, how do I stick as much fucking energy in my Pokemon as I can? That's Pokemon TCG basically. Just frostmoth your shit to pieces. I kind of want to know a little bit about, what we talked a little bit about like the premise of Dart Monkeys, right? And like how you guys came together. Have you guys thought much ahead of what's going on after Game Changers, right? Because you're also a team that's signing up for a ton of stuff. So win or lose in Game Changers, like what are the next few months looking like for your team, and what is like the overall goal? Let's say like for 2022, like what do you really want to achieve this year going forward?
Um, it would be nice to qualify for the global end. We're kind
Mhm.
of behind on our start just because we got 7th, 8th in the first
Mm.
Mhm.
open, and there's only 2 NA spots. We're playing in Astral in August, but like as far as goals go, we're not really setting any goals of like results oriented goals. We're just trying to be the best versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
So every single day, if we can be 1% better than we were the day prior, that is our goal. Um, and over time, the results will come with that, and we
Mhm.
can grow into becoming the best Game Changers team or whatever over time, if that is like what our eyes are set on. But yeah, no, right now we're just focused on internal improvement. We're gonna play in everything for tourney experience. We're gonna practice every day.
Yeah.
We're
Awesome.
just gonna keep grinding.
On that, that's awesome because you keep practicing and you're making heads turn, which is great too.
Yeah.
That said, though, I think looking at the qualifiers of y'all played into Game Changers Series 1 and then now Game Changers Series 2, it's a minimum of top 8 in both so far. But unfortunately, up to this date, there's you still haven't been signed. So has that been like something that's been lingering behind your mind as a team, and that's been difficult?
I mean,
and how do
you
you
did
play
hint
with
at
that,
the
right?
5 months without paychecks thing.
Exactly,
you know.
exactly. So is that something
Um,
that's stressing out the team a bit?
n- Not really. Um,
That's
we
good.
have an amazing agency representing us. We know
Awesome.
that we're capable of like being signed.
Hmm.
We've proven time and time again we are on these teams' levels and can compete with them. It's just time,
Hmm.
and
I believe that as
like
well.
none of us are antsy about it either.
Hmm.
W- We're just gonna continue growing and being the best players. We're not in it for the money.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Damn,
that's
that's a 2002 mentality back. We're not in it for the money. We're in for the glory, and that's
Yeah,
what I love.
absolutely.
yeah. I mean, I really recommend that mindset as well to anyone that's trying to, especially in esports, right? Whether it's like caster or player or anything like that. I think it's a really good way to sort of start approaching it. I'm
Yeah.
excited. I mean, you can definitely hear I can definitely hear you guys are like in the middle of quite a grind here. So thanks so much for giving us some time, Autumn, to sort of pick your brain about the team, the past, and the future. It's been great to have you on the show, and good luck in the
Yeah.
playoffs for Game Changers.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.